To take the wheel of a rocket Oldsmobile with the rocket engine and whirl away. It's a driver's dream come true.
Right here in Detroit, we live in the automobile. I was astounded when they let us go down the way they did. They almost let Chrysler drown.
When it started, America was unprepared. From across the ocean they came. Little cars, determined to change the buying habits of a nation. And for a while, there was no stopping them.
Okay, but I'll tell you the truth. Volkswagen did not really cut that deep. But they were the start, you know?
They were the only one that time.
Well, what the hell, yeah. But I mean, just saying that was the first real import. They've always had Rolls Royces and goddamn Mercedes, but they didn't do nothing to hurt our market, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, we controlled the whole market of the world. We were the car producers. Certainly they were hurting. Yeah. You're damn right they were. They were out of jobs. They couldn't find a job.
Chevrolet stands alone.
See the USA.
There was no way they could. I'm talking about skilled tradesperson now. Here in the Detroit area, when these automobiles plants cut down, that ended hey, I've got kids, you know, and son-in-laws and something like that. They cannot find a job. I had a son who went to Houston. My other son went, my son-in-law went to Houston. My son went to Houston. They went all over the world trying to look, all over the United States looking for a damn job. There was none to be available.
Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all.
We're going to keep losing until somebody wakes up and stops it. Because they got to start buying America. That's what they got to do.
The state bank account over $1 billion in the red. Industries pulling up stakes faster than you could say single business tax.
I've had enough of 82. It has to get better.
And so it must be. For Detroit, 1982 was the year the recession became depression by proclamation of Mayor Young. He declared a hunger emergency in the city. Officially, Detroit's unemployment hit 17%, half the people in the city on some kind of government assistance.
We had 3,000 people in our place, I think, and they cut them down to
1,000 or something.
under 1,000, I think it was. So they hurt many people. Some guys, people were off for long enough, they never did get called back.
Choked by imports and fighting for survival, the American auto industry and its army have targeted Japan as a major source of its problems.
We are being shot at and shot up by the Japanese, who have the most protectionist economy in the world. What some of those who hold up the specter of a trade war ignore is that we are already in the middle of such a war, but only the Japanese are shooting.
I said, if I were president of the United States for 2 months, I said, I'd fix the Japanese like they've never been fixed. I said, I would put a moratorium on automobiles.
But many of their verbal bullets aimed at the Japanese government and car makers have strayed off course and are hitting home instead.
I've been followed down the road by hostile people screaming out the window of their car, brandishing weapons in the window and everything else, and I've come very close on several occasions to having a serious confrontation where someone probably would have got hurt.
We got Japs, Chinese, any goddamn guy in the world working out on our line, and it don't bother us one bit. And if they had all the Japanese cars, this is not a prejudice situation. With the guy, people get excited when they talk about, you know, like I told you, I'd call a foreign car anything but a General Motors car in that lot. That's a foreign car to me, you know?
I just mind my own business, but in light of how many people go out of their way to antagonize people that look different than them, at least in this part of the country, it's surprising that there hasn't been more than one Vincent Chin incident.
Nikki Granberry is standing by in Southfield with more. And Nikki, I hope we can assume that these cars do not have owners.
That's right, Bev. The car you're looking at...
I've driven a Japanese car for years. I've found once a sign on my own windshield saying I hate people who don't drive American cars. There were pictures, in fact, a person who made a documentary about the Chin case exploited those pictures of people smashing Japanese imports. They were so angry. But it's a quantum leap, a giant jump to say that you're angry at Japanese imports and that you then hate Oriental people.
Well, to be quite honest, I expected to go to jail. I pleaded guilty to manslaughter on that. I did just like anybody else. I went to take my licks because I thought sure I would go to jail. And I was prepared to go, really, as much as you can be prepared for something like that.
Tôi想em kia lo, tôi cái bạn phản công tôi và nó phản công nữa, phản công phản nó dặm bọn người như vậy nó vả lỗi, cái của cô trong bội nó vả lỗi nữa cơ.
And in what outraged the Asian community, both escaped a 15-year prison term. Instead, they were placed on 3 years probation and given a $3,000 fine.
Because neither had a previous criminal record, and both had what the judge called stable working backgrounds.
The victim lingered for 4 days, which again, based upon everything, was indicative to me that they attempted to administer a punishment. They did this too severely in careless, reckless disregard of human life, which is what manslaughter is. And that's what they were found guilty of, and that's what I predicated my sentence on. Had it been a brutal murder, of course these fellows would be in jail now.
Có một xăm đến probation là mà con vẫn phải làm được probation làm được một thành nhẹ mà nha. Có cái xíu hàng vì phát xăm thành ngàn nha, có lắm. Còn mà tới thà am lấy này po nó aiคุยthành con người về xóa á. Ngồi tới am lấy này po ngồi bên số cả. Mất cái cổ có cô hai là sim. Có số tiền đi mong nghìn có cùng cả mà am lấy này hai cóอย่างตัวโล
And right there on the front page was coverage of that these two killers had received probation for killing a Chinese man. And I just felt all of the blood and feeling in my body leave me. I just couldn't believe that this had happened.
I was brought up to believe that if you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. And it didn't seem that, Vincent's life was valued very much.
Trong ổn phồn có in có phạm bị con phá luật môi phồn lo quy dặm với cái gì tôi luôn năng cao xiêm liang vội có qua phồn nó qua cam đồ phồn gì đó mà ngồi bốn cái nó bằng ô phát thấy nó mót nó bằng với quy vá mèm buồn ngồi dù kẹo và cái hồi dạng tôi cần ngồi có hai bạc nghìn liên ngồi đi siêu hai hồ nghìn cái đó hai hồi dạng tôi mà ngồi mỗi lì diêu tôi không xóa ngồi có cái săn nghìn nó không xóa ngồi tôi mà mà cái không xóa lộn buồn ngồi không xóa dùng không xui dùng ngồi sang phát thì dùng mót đó.
Yeah, we all were surprised that they didn't come to us and ask us what happened. All the dancers were like shocked.
When you have two police officers as eyewitnesses to any type of crime, I believe both officers should have been notified for court. Both officers should have went to court, and both officers should have been notified of any plea bargaining. In this matter, we were, I would have to say, maybe the last to know.
Didn't you have then the responsibility to ask for the other side of the case before you handed down the sentence?
Bill, I am the presiding judge in the criminal division of the Wayne Circuit Court. I have approximately
50 sentences every week. With 50 sentences a week, you're talking about 200 sentences a month. You're talking about over 2,000 sentences per year.
In March 1983, two men, Ronald Ebens and Michael Nitz, stood before Judge Charles Kaufman, a Wayne County Circuit judge, to be sentenced for their convictions of manslaughter. The charges in this case were originally second-degree murder. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. What happened to reduce the charges from second-degree murder to the charges that were subsequently pled to, which would be manslaughter?
It's the process called plea bargaining. The prosecutor offered both defendants the right to plead guilty to a lesser offense, namely manslaughter, in exchange for the defendants giving up their right to a trial by jury or a trial by the judge. They accepted that offer, and they pled guilty to manslaughter.
The only thing that really bugs me is that the response, especially from people in the legal community, has been that these things happen all the time. Sure, police detectives don't even bother to ask people at the scene of the crime anything. I did have an opportunity to read the pre-sentence report, the psychiatric evaluation and so forth. And one thing I don't understand about that was that words like Ronald Ebens is a bigot, an extremely hostile person, has a long history of alcoholism and alcohol-related problems. And it recommended, in addition to incarceration, that he receive detoxification and counseling for his alcoholism.
With all due respect, Helen, I think you're being somewhat naive.